Hey everybody, Quantum here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at a meta version of Emerald Steel piloted by my opponent. This is basically the second place list that Ed used in the Toronto DLC side event, which was a set 5 meta. Very effective list using a lot of draw engines like Clarabelle, Diablo, and Beast Tragic Hero. It's pretty much what Emerald Steel I think will become in set 5 if it is going to be competitive, and it is a very good list. And on our end, we're using another iteration of the Ruby Amber Sensor Core deck. So this is a Queen and Princess focused deck that kind of functions a little bit around the new item, the Queen Sensor Core. In my opinion, a really nice item. I'm sure it will be competitive, especially as we get better princesses and queens in the future. But even what we have now, the deck is still pretty good. So we're going to be on the drop for this match. Unfortunately, the one where I was on the play got corrupted. But you're going to see just kind of how both of these decks can function and some of the power of like the new Clarabelle, as well as Sensor Core when it's used properly. So in this version, I have like 3 different iterations of this Sensor Core deck. I am focusing very heavily on characters, so I think really I only have Sensor Cores and like Brawls as my non-characters, and then everything else is like a princess or queen, except for like 2 Juliettas and 4 Mother Gothels. So we have like, I don't even know what it is, like a over 80% chance to hit off the Sensor Core pretty much. And we have 3 Gothels in hand, which means like our percentage of hitting off Sensor Core every turn is like skyrocketed. So my opponent starts off by inking and passing. No Robin Hood or anything on the turn 1. We start off with the Mulan, which is really nice. They go Mother Gothel inked into Mother Gothel on field. And both new Mother Gothels, especially the shift one, is very powerful in this set, especially against a tempo-oriented deck like ours. So we're gonna go ahead, and as you can tell, I don't know if this is my trademark card by this point, but we're gonna drop the Snow White because of course we have the big Snow White in hand. Like I said, this one doesn't focus on putting like Be Prepares or anything in the deck. It's just straight princesses, and so what better way to add more princesses and queens than adding the Snow White package. So small Snow White comes down, heals up the Mulan, and we're able to quest, not fearing that this Mother Gothel will trade into our Mulan, because it is a 1/3 body, which means if the Mulan had the damage on it and it was exerted, the Mother Gothel could crash into it and take it out. Now, something to be aware of is the new big Mother Gothel, the shift target, does shift for 4, so you have to be very careful of that. My opponent on turn 3 uses yet another bounce card in the Kit Cloud Kicker. So Mother Gothel can bounce if it's played on turn 5, because you can pay an extra 3 to use the Mother Knows Best effect. But the Kit Cloud Clicker will bounce back the Mulan to my hand. We draw a Queen for turn, so we're going to go ahead and ink that and probably drop Mulan and a Mother Gothel here. This gives us 2 potential targets for our Rapunzel next turn. Now, one downside of this play here, because my opponent is on the play and we're on the draw, is that if they do go shift Mother Gothel into Grab Your Swords, that would basically wipe out our board and put us in a really bad spot here. I'm debating if I did want to quest with the Snow White, but my opponent, knowing that if I'm playing Snow White for the healing, I'm definitely on the bigger Snow White, so will they opt to crash both of their characters into the Snow White? So they Storm Rage the Mother Gothel by singing it with Kit. So again, really good synergy there, just constantly being able to outboard. My opponent knows, right? You can see they're just outing all of the potential ways we can draw cards off of the Rapunzel. But again, it does use up pretty much their whole turn in order to kind of react to my board. So in a way, we did claw back a little bit of tempo, because now they're the ones reacting to us, because they know they can't let us get this Rapunzel draw off. We could always wait till turn 6 and drop the Gothel and the Rapunzel in the same turn. Since we do now on turn 4 have our Snow White shift, we could also just get back some card advantage with that and either get back the Gothel or the Mulan in the discard pile. I could also shift Snow White and then opt to crash it into the Gothel in order to prevent the opponent from shifting, because, like I said, a tempo-oriented deck like ours, the Mother Gothel, the bigger one, coming down and having me choose which character to bounce back to my hand is still very hurtful, because I likely only develop one character a turn, being a tempo-focused deck, and if my opponent does what he did there and outing my threats constantly, I'll only ever have really 1 or 2 characters on board, so it makes the decision a little bit harder. So you can see here I value taking out the Mother Gothel because both my characters will survive. They could trade their Kit into my Snow White, which would prevent the shift, but I'd be okay with that, I guess, because again, it's slowing the opponent down to a certain degree. And this play, you know, does get me the Queen of Hearts on board in case I do draw into a shift Queen of Hearts, but also just a good rush, sorry, not rush target because it's obviously past that turn now, but a good target to throw it into a body if necessary. The opponent's on 4 cards, and I just really wanted to keep them off of the Mother Gothel shift. So we play our own Mother Gothel, ready for the Rapunzel to draw next turn, unless the opponent again wants to react to our board and start outing our threats. We do have a number of different cards with damage, so at worst we could also Rapunzel for 1 and draw just 1 card here. The opponent inks a Pete, realizing that, yeah, we're not on actions here, and they Zeus the Mother Gothel. This is how desperate they are to prevent me from drawing 3 off the Rapunzel that, of course, I have in hand. Now they're probably going to use Kit to mop up the field here, yeah, and clean up the Snow White to prevent the shift. So my opponent did a pretty good job in mitigating both of my lines of play next turn. Definitely didn't put them on, just having more songs to remove my threats. So we're out of Gothels, but we could always, and there's the Queen of Hearts shift, by the way, we could always wait and drop the Snow White, just hard cast it, and, you know, hopefully the opponent doesn't have another Zeus. But this is a matchup that can definitely be very hard for this Censor Core deck because of what you're seeing here with the steel cards consistently pinging off our damaged characters, preventing our Rapunzel draw. So eventually we do end up committing to the Rapunzel heal 1, which is really unfortunate. But we're going to ink that big Queen of Hearts and then quest with the small Queen of Hearts, and pass turn we have a Rapunzel and a Queen of Hearts. Not the Sensing Weakness. Impulsive Ruler, I think, is that one, the small one. The opponent unfortunately gets a Beast Tragic Hero, and I think they're finally on like 1 card. So that's really not great for us because they're going to be able to trigger this beast and generate some nice advantage. We do end up drawing a Censor Core here, so we're going to go ahead and play that. And then play 3 for the Moana, and then probably just quest for 3. And at this point, we can try to start racing the opponent. Another thing with the Emerald Steel deck is that you probably want to be on very low cards in hand, and so this is where Censor Core can really come in handy, because by the end of my opponent's turn I can have 1 or no cards in hand, which means their Clarabelle won't trigger to draw them multiple cards at the end of their turn, because during my turn I can trigger the Censor Core, get the additional resource for ink or something, and just continue to build my board that way without maintaining a big hand, which would play into the Clarabelle. So here my opponent once again drops a small Mother Gothel, pays the additional 3 to bounce back my Moana to hand. They forgot to draw off the extra for the Beast Tragic Hero, and I just told them that you have to draw, so you might as well just draw there. Ursula Deceiver in the Inkwell, so again, my opponent just knowing what I'm on, knowing that I'm not really on actions or songs really, so they're inking that Deceiver, and they're still on 1 card in hand, so this is really good for me here. They're debating what to do. I'm assuming they are not going to use their Beast Tragic Hero to crash into anything, and they don't. So we're going to go ahead and gain our lore, ready up our stuff, and Censor Core is going to work. We draw, oh, sorry, I guess I am on Teeth and Ambitions. I should be on Brawls too, so maybe I was on like 3 Teeth, 3 Brawl, I guess. That's probably what it was. But we're going to sing Teeth with the Impulsive Ruler, put 2 damage on the Rapunzel, put 2 damage on Beast, which does make it a 7/5 body during my opponent's turn, but that's fine because we're shutting off their draw engine here. Yeah, I just like messed up with the damage counter. I wasn't sure really what was happening. I thought it was on top of it, on top of the other one, but yeah, it was beneath the card for some reason. Anyways, we don't have an inkable, so we can't actually ink and then cast the Snow White. We're going to go ahead and activate Censor Core though and reveal a small Snow White, which is okay in this scenario because, I mean, we could play the small Snow White, heal up the Rapunzel, or we can just redevelop the Moana here, which is a beefy body that also quests for 2. We're just going to go ahead and continue to quest here. So we quest with Rapunzel and pass turn. The opponent will now not draw 2 off Beast Tragic Hero. They do indeed draw Clarabelle though, and I do have, 2 cards in hand, so that's not great. We're going to have to dump out our hand here. The Beast is going to end up taking out the Rapunzel. And Beast should not have died there. What happened there? Did I miss that? Oh, we both missed that. I don't know why. Why did the Beast go down there? I mean, I don't think it matters in the end because I probably just would have crashed into it with the Queen of Hearts. But yeah, that was a mistake. It only had 2 damage, right? So I quest for 3, and I'm sorry, I was so distracted with the Beast play there. I don't even know if I gained my lore off of the Censor Core, but I assume I did. But yeah, instead of questing for 1, I would have just used the Queen of Hearts to crash. So we're going to go ahead and ink and drop the Snow White. Now I only have 1 card in hand, so the Clarabelle will still only draw 1. But you can kind of see just how Emerald Steel plays now. They have Beast Tragic Hero, they have Clarabelle, a lot of different ways to continue drawing cards, which is very strong for this in combination. So despite losing the Bucky lines of play, this deck is still very, very strong here. So the Cloud Kicker comes into play, bounces back the Queen of Hearts. So again, yeah, not really making too much of a difference here. But what is the opponent going to do? They definitely want to try to play out their hand. Ink can play out their hand if they can, so they can continue to draw off Clarabelle. And this is where Clarabelle can be so strong, right? I remember when I did my Emerald review, and I was like, I can't believe this card is so cheap, because look how powerful this thing is, right? You can just constantly dump your hand and just refill it at the end of every turn. So I anticipate, yeah, my opponent probably has more removal here. They're going to Storm Rage and then draw a card off of that. So 3 for Kit, 3 for Storm Rage. They have 2 ink left. They're going to Sing with Clarabelle, Strength, which is another 3 damage, which will take out the Snow White. So I mean, the Snow White didn't end up getting its effect off because we couldn't shift it, but the opponent did have to exert a lot of resources, pun intended, in order to out the Snow White, which is actually okay for me. So we're going to go ahead and draw. We draw another Sensor Core here, which is kind of interesting here. The opponent also, yeah, just forgets to draw off of the Clarabelle, because this is where the bounce energy comes into play, right, guys? They bounce back a card with Cloud Kicker, or with Mother Gothel, or You're Welcome a card and make me draw 2. The Clarabelle will trigger to draw them more cards. So yeah, very, very strong deck in general, and just all that steel removal is really putting a hurt on my ability to really start throwing down or developing my threats that I need. We're going to go ahead and hard cast Queen of Hearts, and then play another Sensor Core, Quest with Moana, and go to 16. And if the opponent doesn't have the direct out, we're going to win the game next turn. So they need an out to the Queen. And, well, they can just challenge them a 1, obviously. But on 16 lore now, the Sensor Core plus the Queen of Hearts here will make the difference in winning the game. So let's see what the opponent has here. They should have 3 cards in hand now. We have nothing, so they won't draw off Clarabelle. They're going to start off probably by singing a Bruno, which will force the discard of the Queen after it's bounced back, and then Zeus on the Moana, so not great for me. They're going to go ahead and drop a 3-drop Clarabelle and quest up to 4 and pass turn. So they definitely were able to mitigate the Sensor Core lore gain here, but all I need is a Princess to stick. So knowing that my opponent's in top deck mode as well, I guess I'm going to activate Sensor Core, and of course I miss. No, reveal another Sensor Core. But that's okay. We still have 4 ink to work, or sorry, 5 ink to work with, 4 to cast the Rapunzel, and then again the Rapunzel plus the Sensor Core would win the game here. The opponent draws a Robin Hood, so the Queen of Hearts there, would have kept me 1 lore behind if I would have challenged instead of questing with it if the Beast error didn't occur. And so what would happen is, I guess my opponent's next top deck and my next top deck, which we know is the Queen of Hearts, the Sensor Core, I would just Sensor Core again. Probably get something off the top. I don't know if I reveal what was going to be on the top here. But yeah, just quest for 2 and then gain 2 off Sensor Core. But I would probably just develop yet another Princess. Yeah, I would have, or a Queen, the Queen of Hearts in this case. And then I would win the game next turn if my opponent couldn't out the Queen on the following turn. So in the end, it was probably inconsequential, but still a meaningful interaction to take note of. Anyways, yeah, we end up taking that one just barely. The Clarabelle and the opponent building up their board was definitely coming into play. But let me know what you think if you made it this far in the video. Thank you again for watching. Quantum is out.